And good afternoon to you, family. Good afternoon to you again. Welcome to Longwood Firearms Training. I'm your host, Juan J. Johnson, coming at you live again on this special, let's say, December 14th, 2023. Yes, I am back on. I just ended the broadcast talking about marijuana and guns, the prohibition. And today we have another spectacular broadcast with one of the authorities in landlord-tenant relationships. Looking forward to having her back on again. We've had on before. I figured around this holiday season we would bring her back up, talking about a topic that many do not talk about. So I need you to come on in. You need to like this video, share it. Need you to subscribe to the platform that you see it on. Again, um, we're going to have a discussion about marijuana and landlord-tenant evictions with none other than the landlord expert, Karisa Spann herself, in the house. Um, Before we get into the topic, let us first talk about you become a responsible gun owner and gun user. I'm gonna need you right now to go to lwftraining.com. That's lwftraining.com and sign up for your concealed carry weapons. Sign up for your wear and carry. Sign up for your HQL, which is a handgun qualification license, which allows you to purchase a gun. They are 4-hour classes. The wear and carry classes are 16 hours, probably even 18. We don't rush those classes because when you leave lone wolf, you're gonna know how to be a lone wolf. And I mean that. So we don't rush it. We make sure you have every skill you need to be a effective wear and carry citizen. Also, there's an intro to basic firearms. We do also. It's a 2-hour class that can be done online. If you need a handgun, a firearm instructor, again, go to lwftraining.com. If you have guns in your possession, you no longer want them, right? You've inherited them. You was given a gun. You found a gun, and you don't want it. Do not go to the police and turn that gun in. Please don't take it to no gun buyback. Contact a pawn store or a store that will take back your gun and give you a fair amount for it. Or you can contact lwftraining.com. We will come to your location with paperwork in hand, provide the services to transfer that gun from your house to the company for training purposes. Okay? There's no need for you to, in this volatile age era, to be turning your guns in. I'm a gun advocate. I believe in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, family. This is a Second Amendment station channel, but we talk about other topics too that are relevant. I just finished talking about marijuana and being a gun owner, how there's a federal law that says you just can't be in possession and you can't be smoking marijuana and you can't own a gun. It's a federal guideline for that. So I figured I would chase that broadcast with this broadcast about marijuana, landlord tenant evictions with none other than the expert herself. She's going to bless us with some information that you can use. And we probably will expand the conversation, but we're going to talk about evictions, marijuana, and I'm going to introduce to some and present to others no other than Dr. Expert Karisa Spann's in the house. How you doing, Karisa Spann?
Thank you so much, Juan. I appreciate that warm introduction. I need to have you to do all of my introductions whenever I'm speaking. Listen, I'm super excited to be here today. I'm super excited to be on the platform to speak to your wolf pack.
Wolfpack.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, the pleasure is mine having you here again in this season of giving and sharing in evictions. We see it way too often that people will go through great lengths to give and share and forget the main thing. Sometimes they pay that bill. Okay. And some have gone to contracts and to tenants and told specifically, explicitly, this is a non-smoking facility, a non-smoking uh, community, and they put sometimes emphasis on the weed. Had to throw that in weed. On the weed. So I wanted to bring you on so we can have this discussion about marijuana and landlord tenant evictions. And I know nobody else who's the authority on landlord tenant relationships, none other than you, Karisa Spann. So,
Well, it is a timely topic, and I'm happy to weigh in on this conversation, much needed, and to provide some clarity, some understanding, and awareness for people who are not clear on this matter. And I know that marijuana for many states have been legalized, but it's not a standard law. It's not a blanket law, if you will. It's not a cookie cutter law for all jurisdictions. And I know that because in some areas where marijuana has been legalized, that some tenants believe that they can smoke, they can do whatever they want. And in many cases, what they fail to realize is that that's simply not the case, and that the landlord could, in fact, still evict for smoking marijuana, especially in situations where, let's say, for instance, there is a no smoking building. And if they've already signed a lease saying that they abide by the terms of that rental lease agreement, they have a legally binding contract that the owner could, if the problem became so heavy that the owner wanted to enforce the lease, they could. Now, here's another thing, Juan. For rental properties where the tenant is participating in some sort of housing assisted program,
mhm.
that's an automatic denial. So even in jurisdictions where marijuana has been legalized, right? If they're participating in a federally funded program, doesn't matter how legal it is, that is prohibited because that's a federal program. So I wanted to put that in the way because I know that you may have some viewers who are participating in some sort of housing subsidy program, and they too need to know what the laws are so that they don't find themselves in a hot seat or getting a notice of violation from their landlord trying to understand what they did wrong.
So if a tenant is participating in a federal funded program, which explicitly says no marijuana use, they could be evicted. That's what you're saying?
That's a violation of the program. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. In spite of this, wow. So, because that's a good point, because we have a lot of laws that legalize medical marijuana prescriptions.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that that federal law trumps that state law in reference to landlord-tenant relationships. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Breaking news, family. Breaking news. If you are in a state that legalizes marijuana prescriptions and you're in a program that's federal, that prohibits the smoking of marijuana, you could be evicted. That's breaking news.
Yeah,
That
that's a
should be on the
violation.
news.
That's a violation under federal laws. Under the federal law, the use and the possession of marijuana is still a crime under federal law.
Yes, yes, yes. I broke that. I said that on my other. I said that on my other I'll put that at the bottom of the screen. Federal law prohibits any person who is unlawful user of addicted to any controlled substance from participation. That's a firearm, but you've even expanded it to the whole marijuana piece too. So it's not just the firearms that you prohibited from having; it's also participating in these programs with landlord tenants. That's amazing. If you have any questions while we're having this conversation, please put inside the chat. Again, we're on the line with the expert in landlord tenant relationships. That is none other than Karisa Spann, and she is here to give us information that we didn't know and to remind us of information we do know. Okay. So my question to you is this: do you think that the laws are clear about smoking?
The laws are definitely not clear because, again, there's no blanket covering, and so a lot of jurisdictions are doing things. They're creating these laws, and even on, let's just say, on a state level, right? When it's broken down all the way down to the local level, there is not really a consistency in the law, meaning that it's not clear to housing providers or renters, for that matter, what the requirements are, what the violations are, and how the two in that relationship, the landlord and tenant relationship, should conform to that standard, that law in that area. And so, no, it's not. It's not clear. It's not standard. And I'm looking and hoping that things will improve, things will change, because, and I'm glad that we're touching on that, because I get a lot of, as a landlord and tenant expert, I get a lot of calls and inquiries from owners and housing providers regarding the law and whether or not they can evict, and does the law really mean this, or does the law really mean that? And unfortunately, it's not clear. It's not clear enough.
I can understand why you get a lot, because there seems to be a smoking epidemic in a lot of places. I mean, you can't go outside your house, or you can't go to the gas station without smelling smoke. I mean, the weed is on. It's loud. As a matter of fact, there's a weed called loud out there. It's very loud. Okay. And I mean, it disrupts the community if you're not a smoker. So what if somebody, a client, a tenant, uh, what if it's not in the contract initially, but the community eventually becomes a non-smoking community? How does that affect the tenant?
Now, that's a good question. So I would always advise housing providers and landlords to put it in writing, okay? Because they cannot enforce something that doesn't exist. So let's say you have, in this situation, a tenant who moved in. When they originally moved to the community, there were no clauses, there were no stipulations, there were no prohibitions in the lease about smoking, whether it's cigarettes, vaping. That's another thing, because marijuana is one thing, but smoking something else could be something totally different. But let's just say, for the sake of this question here, it was not in writing when the tenant first moved in. And now all of a sudden, the landlord wants to make it a requirement. It really just depends on where that rental property is located. Some jurisdictions, for instance, Washington, D.C., is pro-tenant. When the initial lease term is up, the landlord is not required to renew the lease. So any changes to the lease, they cannot force the tenant to sign. That lease automatically rolls over to month to month. And if in that situation, the tenant decides, you know what, I don't want to sign the lease, the landlord can't force it. Now, the landlord could just put out a blanket statement to all tenants to say, hey, effective January 1st or February 1st or effective 90 days from now, this is our new policy regarding the property. If you are still, a tenant, it is the expectation that you're going to abide by the new terms of the program or the property. And so there's some things that the landlord can do, but technically, if it's not in writing, if it's not a legally binding contract, it could make it somewhat a little sticky. That could really be a sticky situation. Now, on the flip side, and then I'm gonna pause and let you chime in here. But now, let's just say on the flip side, you have a jurisdiction like maybe Maryland or Virginia, where the laws are not in favor of the tenant, but the landlord has, a little bit more flexibility and leeway, then, they could try to enforce changes to the lease in those areas, but it just depends on the jurisdiction.
Even if the landlord was to source that federal law and was to put that in the new notice to the tenants, how does the tenant fight against that if he's quoting the federal law?
So, but now here's the thing. So the federal law is, let me just be a little bit clear here. With the federal law, that is specifically for federally funded programs. So if that landlord is in a program with the state or the local housing authority and they're getting money from the federal government, then they must abide by those federal laws. But if it's just but if the contract is only on state or local level, then the federal laws don't come into play because there's no contract. There is no connection. There's no relationship for the federal government to say, hey, now you can use our laws to trump whatever's happening. So I want to be clear on that.
So federal applicants, tenants, and programs that have a federal guidelines, they must adhere to those federal guidelines.
Absolutely.
If not, they can be evicted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because, like I said, because federally, on a federal level, use and possession of marijuana is still a crime.
So just to be clear, tenants can be evicted for smoking marijuana in rental properties?
Yes, absolutely.
Did y'all hear that? For all those in the back, way in the back, you can be evicted for smoking marijuana in your rental property. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to share you think should be that's important?
Well, I think that when it comes to landlord and tenant relationships, marijuana on rental properties, I would like for people to know and understand that it should always be in writing. Whatever the policy is, whatever the laws or the regulations are, it should definitely be in writing and provided to the tenant, whether it's a lease, whether it's the lease addendum, making sure that not only is it in writing, but that each party sign off on it to acknowledge it. Because if, let's say, for instance, Juan, you have an apartment building, you don't want your tenant smoking in the building because it could be harmful to somebody else's health, an elderly or senior person who may have some sort of sensitivity to this marijuana smoke, right? You want to make sure that each tenant signs to acknowledge that they understand. It's not enough to just put in a lease. It's not just enough to put out a letter, but to make sure that everybody sign, understand, and agree to it. Now, that's not to say that after they sign it, the tenants won't smoke, because like you said, we are just in this era now where you can walk outside your door and people are just lighting up everywhere. Now, I don't know about you, Juan, but when I was, growing up, and I know that I'm a lot younger than you are, but even in my younger days growing up, people didn't smoke in the open like that. They would move to the side. There was this respect. And so now it it's just so mind blowing how, because it's just a thing to do, there is no respect. You could walk down the street and catch a contact or whatever. You have all these different strands of marijuana, right? And it has different smells and whatever. But I would just suggest, again, for landlords and tenants to understand what the laws are. Because if a tenant is caught violating the law, violating a lease agreement, rather, let me just put it that way. If the tenant is violating a lease, it's not what the landlord knows, it's what the landlord can prove. So just
Mm.
because a tenant is smoking, he can't just go to the landlord, he or she can't just go to the courthouse and say, well, Your Honor, I want my tenant out because they're smoking. What proof do they have? So when they go to the rental property, they they have to have some sort of proof, whether it's cigarette or marijuana ashes, ashtray, and there is usually a film on the wall from smoke, right?
Mhm.
And so that could also serve as proof, but it's really hard because landlords, they have complaints, but they don't know how to prove it. Maybe if a neighbor will be willing to write a letter or to just confirm that there is uh, some behavior, some smoking behavior going on at the property, that could potentially help as well. But then the landlord, the owner, must have a no smoking policy signed up as well. And so there are a lot of things that should happen on the front end in order for the landlord to even consider pursuing a tenant for eviction. Just because they smell it, it's no proof by way of court. They're not in the court of law, right? We know it's not what you know, is what you can prove.
So if I'm a tenant and I'm on a property where smoking is prohibited, as a tenant, what should I do?
As a tenant, have a conversation with the landlord if they think they're going to be in trouble, to find out. So if I'm your tenant, Juan, and I'm smoking, hypothetically, and you say, well, hey, Karisa, I received a complaint that there's some smoking coming from your unit. And I know I don't want to be kicked out. I really like where I live. I'm going to come to you and say, hey, Mr. Juan, I apologize. Um, yeah, we were smoking. I have this prescription to smoke and it helps to calm my anxiety. Is there a specific place at the rental property that you prefer me smoking? Because here's the thing, and it's not just smoking, you have medical use, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Mm.
it's a very sticky subject. It's a very uncomfortable conversation that landlords and tenants don't have, because tenants, especially when they have a prescription, they have a medical right to smoke. They have a medical right to light up. The landlord don't care if it's medical or not. If there are complaints, if they're smoking, as you say, the loud, and it's really loud, it's offensive to others, the landlord sometimes don't care if they have a prescription. They don't want it there. And so I would say, if you're a tenant, someone who is, have a conversation with the landlord. If you must smoke, find out if there's a specific area of the property where the landlord would prefer smoking to take place. Because here's the thing, this is key. This is key and critical for tenants, because now you're showing that you care, right? You're showing your level of care and concern. You don't really want to violate the lease. You don't want to go, to court over smoking. And so you reach out to the landlord to say, hey, listen, I do have to smoke. Okay. If there's somewhere that you have for me to go, I will gladly go. That's showing on your end, you're taking responsible measures
Mhm.
to not violate that lease.
That's good. Because I was thinking there are properties out there that do have designated smoking spots. It doesn't say for weed or for cigars or for cigarettes. It just says a designated smoking area.
Absolutely.
But so, what advice would you give to a landlord who's trying to capture a non-compliant tenant who's trying to get them up out their premises? Like, you got to go. What would you tell a landlord? Because he has a property, he's got, or they have property, they have tenants. They try, because it seems like sometimes that smoke just bring a whole different element to your property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what would you tell a tenant? What would you tell a landlord how to capture one of those smokers?
Well, I would suggest any proof that they have, pictures, if they have cameras on the property. And I know that sometimes that can seem as that could come off as being intrusive,
Petty?
violating tenants' rights, but taking pictures, that is the best way to demonstrate that there is proof. So if a landlord is at the property, maybe let's just say, Juan, the landlord is at the property conducting an inspection for needed housing repairs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The landlord is there not to inspect to see if there's smoke. And although there are some concerns, the landlord is, trying to make repairs. They realize while conducting this housing inspection for needed repairs that there is smoking going on. Take a picture of it. Listen, true story. I was doing an inspection last week for a client of mine. And so I had to inspect a lot of her apartments because she received the fine. So I went out to help her to make sure that she had all repairs completed and was in compliance so that the government wouldn't hold her responsible for over $50,000 in fines for not making repairs. And in one of the apartments in particular, I walked in, the smoke was so thick and heavy. I immediately told the tenant, I said, listen, hey, I'm here to do this inspection. I need you to open your doors and your windows. I can't come in like this.
Right.
That's how thick it was. And so when I walked in with the representative of the owner, the resident manager who lived at the building. And she pointed out, she says, Karisa, you see that big bag of weed right there on the table. And so I took a picture of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I wasn't there for that. I didn't even know that was going on. I would have put a mask on because I don't smoke. And so sometimes it bothers me. But anyway, I took pictures of it because, again, it's not what we know, it's what we can prove. And so I would suggest that if a landlord recognizes that and see it happening, to take pictures of it. They could definitely take pictures of it. Now, if it becomes a situation where the tenant is just, just so combative and, it becomes what I like to call a heated fellowship, right? A full blown out argument over it. Don't be disrespectful. Respect other people's rights. If they ask a landlord to leave, I would always suggest that the landlord leave, because worst case scenario, you don't know, well, the owner don't know if that's a trigger. Tenants, sometimes they can suffer from, what is it called? PTSD. Is that is that correct? And so
yes.
Sometimes there could be things that would trigger a person. And so someone with PTSD, you don't want to trigger them. They have a flashback and then they want to do something. They want to inflict some sort of bodily harm while you're in their rental apartment or house or whatever. And so do what you can with what you have, but just don't be so overbearing and disrespectful, is what I tell all of my clients.
Again, if you're late to this broadcast, we're listening to the expert on landlord tenant properties relations, Karisa Spann. I'm going to put her information right here. Rental Property Pro, and www.tenantlife.com. You can reach out to her for any questions, concerns. She does workshops. As a matter of fact, let me just put this plug in right now. There is a affordable rental housing online workshop on December 19th of next week. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yes, thank you so much for that, Juan. And so that is one of the workshops that I'm happy to share and talk about, where I'm showing people how to find and apply to low income housing programs. For instance, the Section 8 program, where the government will pay owners most, if not all, of tenants' rent. It is a big push by the federal government to maintain, to preserve affordable housing. And so the federal government is, in fact, pouring millions of dollars into communities all throughout the United States. And so Tuesday, December the 19th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am conducting a free online workshop. Now, there's a free version, and then there's also a component, a VIP component for those individuals who need some help. We'll provide material, we'll provide resources. They can meet with my team and I for Q&A, because we want to make sure that we are helping as many people as possible. And my personal goal is to assist 1,000 families. And so in order to do that, I want to make sure that it's affordable. And so it doesn't get any more affordable, than free 99. But if they need assistance, if they would like to work with us, there's a nominal cost for that, because of course we have to pay for certain things that we're taking care of. But and here's another thing. So when it comes to Section 8, what a lot of people don't know is that there is no time limit for these tenants to live in a rental property. And so for housing providers or investors, people who are thinking about Section 8, I do hope that you tune into my platform, because I am very clear and transparent on affordable housing. I've been in this space for almost 30 years. I've worked and managed these programs, and I share behind the scene information. I share information to prepare owners to be successful, and to make sure that as an owner, how to find quality tenants. And so I'm a landlord and tenant expert. I love sharing. I love teaching. But yes, Tuesday, December the 19th, next week, is the affordable housing application workshop.
Family, if you're listening, and this is not just locally, this is nationwide.
This is nationwide.
I will put up the www.tenant-life.com. Is that it?
That's correct.
So whether you're in Maine, or whether you're in California, or whether you're in the middle of America, you can be in Texas, Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota. You can sign up right now at www.tenant-life.com, right?
Tenant-life.com. Now, let me also add this, that it doesn't matter if the individual have a child, children. It could be a single person. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, if you're fat or skinny, right? It does not matter. What they look at are how many people will be in the household, what is the income. They will look at any individuals who may be veterans or disabled, right? There are a whole list of preferences that they look at. And sometimes people don't apply because they feel like, oh, well, I'm not going to qualify. You don't know until you actually apply. And so I walk through all of those steps on the webinar. And if it's just to show up to get the information, then make the decision or not to apply, at the very least show up, because it's a free webinar. And so this is something that I am passionate about. And another thing about the voucher program, when individuals do obtain a Section 8 voucher, just depending on that jurisdiction, Juan, they can use that voucher to purchase a home, whereas the government will assist them with paying the mortgage. So I don't know of any other program in the United States, maybe you know of it, but I don't know any other programs in the United States that will pay tenants or will assist tenants with paying for something that they are beginning to purchase or own. And so there are a lot of resources in the community that's not being talked about, and that's why I'm really passionate about sharing this information. So yes, family, please go to tenant-life.com, sign up. You can get the paid or you can get the free if you are interested. And just hearing more about it, just sign up for the webinar. It costs you nothing but your time.
Family, you heard it from the expert herself, talking about that landlord tenant life. And I brought this up today or this month because, again, I know every year, like clockwork, every year you begin to see people being evicted. Every year. It seems like right after the holidays, they spent all the money. And next thing you know, you see folks being evicted. And me, I just want to try to get ahead of this process right now. So if you know you're a tenant and you know you need some more information and you know you need a better living situation and you need some assistance, this is the person, this is the go-to right here. Would you like to respond to what I said?
I thank you, and definitely, absolutely don't. Here's what I want people to know: never feel ashamed. Don't feel embarrassed. Reach out and get some help. Reach out and get some help, because after the eviction takes place, it's going to be almost impossible for someone to rent to you. And so, if at all costs you want to avoid evictions, and there's definitely a way to do that. There are ways, rather, to avoid evictions. And so, if you need help, excuse me, if you need help, reach out. I'm definitely available.
I implore those who are listening and watching this video to please, 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 please reach out for some assistance. I see people evicted every week. Okay. I've seen a lot of women and children being evicted. And I know that a lot of times we've been evicted because we don't have the information. So Karisa Spann is the authority on this landlord tenant conversation. So push beyond the fear. You have no more excuses. Reach out to tenant-life.com. Sign up for the class. I mean, she just said free who? Free dollar, free dot what? Free.com?
$3.99.
Free 99. Free 99. We ain't talking about 99 cents. We talking about free. Where are you going to go get the information about your situation right now? Programs, okay, that can help you nationwide, not just in Maine, California, even, can we say Hawaii? True?
Hawaii, New Mexico, and Puerto Rico, because it's part of the United States.
Family, we have no more excuses. I need you to like this video, or you can dislike this video. I need you to subscribe to whatever platform you see it on. I need you to share the video. Don't be selfish. Anybody who's watching this video right now, whether now and later on, and you know somebody who needs some housing assistance, right? Some rental housing assistance, I'm gonna need you to share the video. It costs you nothing to share. Just take this finger right here, hit the button, share. It costs you nothing to subscribe to the platform. But as a matter of fact, I want you to follow Karisa Spann, because you will get continual updates about what's going on out here in this housing rental landlord space. Could you add to that?
No, that's it. That's spot on.
Yeah. So again, family, no more excuses. Somebody type in the chat comments, no more excuses. No more excuses. December 19th is only 5 days away. In 5 days, there is a where it is right here, a free affordable rental housing online workshop. You can be in Maine and California online. Section 8, low income housing free, December 19th. You have no more excuses. I'm gonna need you to share this video. I'm gonna need you to subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna need you to like it, unlike it, okay? And I'm gonna need you to support Karisa Spann, the expert on landlord-tenant relations. Would you like to say anything else that I may have missed out, and maybe you think that people should know?
No, I think you covered a lot. I also would like to add that for individuals who want to tune in, I do conduct a weekly live on YouTube. Find me at Landlord Life, LandLord, Landlord Life. Life is spelled with a Y. Tenant Life is also spelled with a Y. So find me on YouTube, Landlord Life, and tune in every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sharing topics, tips, and best practices each and every week to improve the entire rental community.
Let me first say this. I did you a little disservice because I did not let these good people know that you're not just the authority, that you teach UDC. You teach this at UDC. Know that. Could you give a little insights on that, please?
Yes, thank you, Juan. I didn't go into my full bio. Okay, I just shared that I've been in this space for almost 30 years. So I am an educator. I teach all things property management, housing educator. That's what I do. Housing, between teaching it, being a property manager, housing inspector, all things landlord and tenant related. I'm your girl.
Again, family, if you're late to the broadcast, to the platform, to the conversation, we are on live with the expert in landlord tenant relationships, none other than Dr. Karisa Spann, who is blessing us with her presence, her information, giving us information we need to go to the next level, to stay in our places, to get some funding for our places, and to warn us if you're not acting right, you get put out those places, those spaces, okay? If you're not abiding by the rules and regulations and the policies, they will evict you, okay? So she sees both sides of the equation, the landlord and the tenant, and you don't have a better combination than the landlord and the tenant expert in these spaces. I know this is a gun channel, but we talked about marijuana and guns the last broadcast, and we're talking about guns now. But look here, if you're in a space and they don't allow guns, can you be evicted for that too? Is there any spaces out there, Karisa, where it says no guns allowed on the property?
Absolutely. If it's in writing, the landlord can enforce it. Here's the thing. If there is a legally binding contract, you have both parties, they agreed, they understood, they agreed. Now, whether they understood, that maybe it could or cannot be disputed in court. But if there's a contract, if there's a lease with a tenant signs saying that they understand that they are not to bring in firearms, their occupants, their guests cannot have firearms at the rental property, then that's what it is. Now, and again, let me go back to the federally funded program. Whether it's in the lease or not is definitely prohibited by federal law.
You heard it here.
So, the laws are so important. That's one of the things that I emphasize every week when I do my lives, letting people know that they really should understand what the laws are in the jurisdiction that they live, they work, or have rental property in. Because the laws don't care whether or not a person is knowledgeable or no, right? The laws are in place. And when they are making these laws, do you think they're taking time to say, hey, well, let's find out if these landlords are knowledgeable about the law? They're not considering that. They're putting things in place to make sure that there are rules, there are regulations, there are guidelines for people to follow. And so it's up to the people and the responsibility of the people to find out what those rules, those regulations are and abide by it. Because if not, worst case scenario, let me just go worst case scenario for an owner. When owners, property managers are violating the laws, there are fines, there are consequences. The same way that when the tenant violates the lease, there are consequences for that as well. And so it goes hand in hand. And each party should know what they're required to do. Because if not, they can find themselves up a creek without a paddle.
Family, and as I bring this thing to an end, one of the most important decisions you're going to make in your life is where you're going to live. I know that who you choose as a partner is important. Um, Maybe that car you want is important. But one of the most important decisions you're going to make in your life outside of you giving your life to Christ and finding your wife is where am I going to live? Okay. I'm not talking about owning. I'm just talking about where you're going to live. Living is either owning or renting, and knowing the guidelines, the policies, procedures for that place where you're staying. Because the last thing you want is to be in violation of that contract and you find yourself being evicted. Because once you get that eviction on you, it's going to be very difficult for you to go somewhere else because they're going to pull up your rental history and your name going to pop up your last place you stayed, and it's going to have some stuff about you on that information. So please tune in to Karisa Spann. You can find her on all your social media platforms, from LinkedIn to Indeed to YouTube, Facebook, you name it. She's everywhere. She got videos, little TikTokers too. Okay, she got little TikTokers out there too. But please tune in for her. She's always keeping it real. And every week she's talking about landlord tenant. I mean, she may be a forerunner in this. I think she could be the forerunner because every week it's 360. It's 52 weeks in the year. She's on here at least 52 times out of the year, minimum. That's 4 times a month. Who is talking about landlord tenant issues 4 times a month? I don't know about it. I mean, different issues, whether it's this marijuana issue, gun. I mean, it's so many different topics about this landlord tenant piece, but she just talks about it. So again, it is good to have Karisa Spann on board for us on today. Again, I need you not to be selfish. I need you to support this free December 19th. If you're living and you know somebody who wants some affordable rental housing online workshop, free December 19th. Okay. And I also want you to, don't be selfish, share the video, subscribe to the station. You can like it. It don't cost you anything to like it, or you can dislike it. Karisa, man, is there anything else you want to share?
Juan, I think that we have covered a lot in such a short period of time. Thank you so much for having me here in your platform. I appreciate the knowledge that you are sharing, the information that you are providing to the community regarding being responsible gun owners. It goes hand in hand, even in rental communities, because we know that there's an uptick in violence, right? And so I'm just honored that you had me on your platform, your show here today. Thank you so much.
The honor is mine because, again, I see it every week. Somebody's been evicted for something, and I think if they just had just a little bit of information, they can get a little assistance, especially in this giving moment, this giving time. They could have stayed just a little bit longer. Okay, so with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You could be somewhere else, but you're here. I know I normally come on at 8 in the evenings, but I felt the need to come on a little early today. I've had 2 programs today. I dealt with marijuana and guns the first session. Now I'm dealing with marijuana and being evicted landlord tenant. So please tune into both of these programs. It's very good information. Again, I want you to be able to stay at your place without worrying about being evicted. So I brought on the landlord tenant specialist The one and only. It's because there's only one Karisa Spann out here. I mean that. They want to know. I mean, who's doing this? Ain't nobody doing this. No, nobody. And I thank you for your time, your cooperation. And again, for those who tuned in, I can't say all your names. I see you. You know who you are. Uh, I need you to subscribe to both channels and share the video. Again, come on this Tuesday coming up. We need you on the affordable rental housing online workshop, and it's free. It's
Absolutely
free.
free. Absolutely free.
So again, with that said, we want to thank you for tuning in. Any last words, Karisa Spann?
Everybody have an amazing day. Enjoy your holiday. Be safe. Be responsible. Gun owners, if you are in a landlord and tenant relationship, respect each other.
You can't beat that. And with that said, we thank you for your presence, your information. Hopefully we have folks who sign up and share the video. Again, the affordable rental housing online workshop for Section 8 and low income housing is December 19th, and it is $3.99. Free. We look to see you there, Karisa Spann. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.
All right. Okay, family, with that said, the affordable rental housing online workshop for Section 8 low income housing is next week. It's free, family, free. If you know somebody, Section 8, they need some assistance, they need some information. From Maine to California, Maine to California. She said, where? Okay, I'm gonna put the website right here. Go to www.tenant lyfe.com hyphen. So it's www.tenant-life. That's when you sign up.com. You see that? www.tenant-life, lyfe.com. You sign up and you sign up. Yes. And it's on YouTube. You sign up and then you can register and come Tuesday. All you need is the internet, computer. You show up and you will be informed and you will be empowered and you will be educated and you will be able to tap into the resources available to you or to somebody you know. Okay. So with that said, thank you guys for tuning in. No broadcast tonight. I did two on today, two very informative, educational, instructive broadcasts. And I believe that you're going to gain a whole lot of information from both of these. Again, share the broadcast because sharing is caring. Don't be selfish. Share it. Share it. I need everybody who viewed it to share it. Like it, dislike it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe, okay? With that said, I always end with this. It is not how much you know, family. It's how much you care, okay? Somebody said, been on Section 8 list since 2012. Well, you know what? Well, today is your day. You're going to come up, you're going to get some assistance, more assistance, okay? It's not how much you know, family. It's how much you care. At the end of the day, just trying to add some value to your life and bring on people or do programs that's going to help you, empower you, educate you, inform you, and encourage you. That's what we're trying to do here. Okay. So again, please go to and sign up for what's that? I'm gonna put it right here again. www.tenant-life.com. And that class is maybe about an hour. So I'm gonna hold you long for that. And you'll be good. Okay. So look, my time is up. I'm gonna let you go. And just always remember this. There is a lone wolf in you. That's my goal, to bring them out. And as I end always, I want you to be healthy. I want you happy. I want you to find love, success. I want you to find prosperity. I want you to get all the resources you need. And most of all, I want you to have unlimited money. And I mean that. Unlimited money. That's my prayer for you. With that said, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. King of the Wolves is out.